On January 1st, active duty Green Beret Matt Livelsberger detonated his Tesla Cybertruck in front of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas, using a combination of fireworks, gas tanks, and camping fuel in the bed of the vehicle. Retired U.S. Army soldier Sam Shoemate received an email from Matt Livelsberger on December 31st, just a day before Livelsberger blew himself up in the Tesla truck. In fact, he even mentioned on Twitter, and I quote, "My inbox was especially eventful today. Allegations of war crimes, government anti-gravity technology, and fears about being tracked and watched by the feds. It's always the world is ending and I have this information that needs to get to the media, and never, how you doing, brother? Everything all right?" End quote. It is no longer a debate whether this email originated from Matt Livelsberger. The FBI has confirmed it.
Yeah, so we have confirmed that the document that he sent to the podcast, we know that he was the one that sent that document. That's correct.
Sam Shoemate appeared on the Sean Ryan Show as a result of the email he received from Matt Livelsberger. This is exactly what Livelsberger asked him to do on January 31st, the day before he blew himself up. Just as Matt wanted, Sam Shoemate read his email on the Sean Ryan Show. To give you further context, here is the opening of Michael Schellenberger's recent January 6th article covering this story, and I quote, "Post-traumatic stress disorder from Afghanistan war trauma and resulting unresolved depression appear to have driven a 37-year-old Green Beret named Matthew Livelsberger to kill himself in a Tesla Cybertruck in front of a Trump hotel in Las Vegas on New Year's Day. In 2020, he was having paranoia and nightmares. He was exhausted and depressed," said Livelsberger's ex-girlfriend. "He was gaining weight and he couldn't think," said the FBI special agent in charge. Although this incident is more public and sensational than usual, it ultimately appears to be a tragic case of suicide involving a heavily decorated combat veteran who is struggling with PTSD and other issues. Law enforcement says there is evidence he changed his psychiatric medication. Now, let's dig in. So Matt Livelsberger, who blew himself up on January 1st in front of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas, he made two essential claims. One is that China is utilizing anti-gravitic propulsion with drones over the United States, and that the U.S. covered up some heinous war crimes from 2019. To be honest, I can't verify either of these assertions, and we will obviously need corroboration to have more confidence of whether or not these assertions are true. What I can say, however, is that on January 9th, Donald Trump addressed the drone issue, and he says that he is going to get to the bottom of it in the second day after he comes into office. Let's play that clip.
I'm going to give you a report on drones about one day into the administration, because I think it's ridiculous that they're not telling you about what's going on with the drones.
I can appreciate Trump saying that he thinks it's ridiculous that they're not telling us what they know about drones. Of course, this sentiment requires that they actually know more about drones than they're letting on. So let's see what Trump has to say on the second day after he comes into office. And I hope he maintains this momentum in terms of shining a light on what the government is holding back. It doesn't just focus on drones per se, but also gets preoccupied with the UFO issue. Because if he thinks it's ridiculous that the U.S. government is not being transparent on drones, how much more so should he think it's absurd that they're covering up whatever they know about UFOs?
Nobody knows. They don't want to talk about it. Go ahead, Governor, you're going to say?
I was just going to say we have drones in Wyoming flying over our infrastructure as well. And it's incredibly frustrating that we not only have no way of knowing what it is, but nobody knows how to deal with them.
They don't want to talk about it, and nobody knows why. They don't want to talk about it. That could be us sending drones. I hope that's the case, us doing it and doing research, and maybe they don't want to talk about it from that standpoint. I hope it's not an enemy, but we're going to find out on the 21st, the day after. You have to give me a little time for the inauguration, but shortly thereafter, we'll give you a report on it. We'll tell you exactly what it is. They know, and it's very strange that they aren't talking about it.
So Trump said they know, and it's very strange that they are not talking about it. Now, if I were to give Trump the benefit of the doubt, it would seem to me that he has already been briefed on UFOs or on drones, and maybe there's crossover between the two. Because why would he say they know, but they don't want to talk about it? How could he definitively say that they know if he wasn't briefed on the situation? And then he says he's going to reveal whatever the truth is on the second day of his presidency. So, look, I absolutely appreciate the revelation that he is going to be transparent about it. And we'll see on the second if he lives up to that promise. I hope he does, and I hope he gets all the information out to the public because we want to know what's going on. I want to share some sentiments by Trump that he recently made. They're not really about UFOs, but maybe they give us some insight into where we are headed as a civilization. In fact, let me just go out on a limb and share a Bible verse with you. Daniel 2:21. He changes times and seasons. He deposes kings and raises up others. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to the discerning. Now, I asked ChatGPT to give me a biblical verse that underscores that God influences current events. I'm not sharing this from a religious perspective. In fact, anyone that knows me is like, I'm very critical of religion in some respects. But let's just play along a little bit, because many do believe that we are quickly approaching a post-disclosure world. And if we truly are to accept that God is in control, is in the driver's seat, or at least influences the flow of time and what happens when, then it would stand to reason that God is playing a role in the time leading up to this shift, and of course, the duration post this shift, which indeed will be forever.
Mr. President, if we were to work under the assumption that you're serious about making Canada 51st state of the United States, the leader of the Conservative Party in Canada said, under no circumstance will it ever be the 51st state.
Maybe he won't win, but maybe he will. I don't care.
You had suggested.
Listen, I don't care what he says.
But Mr. Lopez, you said you were considering military force to acquire Panama and Greenland. Are you also considering military force to annex and acquire Canada?
No, economic force. Because Canada and the United States, that would really be something.
So the takeaway from that exchange, regardless of the accuracy, is that apparently Trump was considering military force to acquire Panama and Greenland, but not Canada. For Canada, he would use economic force.
So we're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which has a beautiful ring that covers a lot of territory. The Gulf of America, what a beautiful name.
Okay, so in that clip, you heard from Trump that he intends to change the Gulf of Mexico into referring to it as the Gulf of America. Now, I'm not here to give a value assessment on what he stated, but we can all be honest that these are very unusual perspectives to share. We can all acknowledge that Trump is not your typical presidential candidate. And so my only point, and this has nothing to do about whether he'll be a good president or a bad president. I'm not being political here. If you claim that I am, then you're forcing me to walk on eggshells. I'm not going to walk on eggshells. But my point is that he is a very unusual candidate and kind of shocks the system. Whether you agree with it or disagree with it, like it or dislike it, he shocks the system based upon things that he says. Even I think ardent Trump fans can be surprised at some of the things he says. And isn't that an interesting alignment if we enter a post-disclosure world while he is the commander-in-chief? And indeed, in my next video, potentially, I'm going to do a whole video about what could happen in 2025. But there is a reasonable chance that Trump will be the disclosure president, and that remains true whether the United States is the first nation to disclose or not. China could disclose, Russia could disclose. The phenomenon could initiate an event that leads to worldwide disclosure. When I say that there's a reasonable probability that Trump is going to be the disclosure president, that is not equivalent to me saying he's necessarily going to disclose. However, his cabinet is the most pro-UFO transparency in the history of all presidents. Now, the question is, are people like John Ratcliffe and others going to live up to those statements of desiring transparency? I don't know. That remains to be seen. But I just thought it was interesting tying in that biblical verse and noticing that Trump is the president during this very powerful time. That doesn't necessarily mean that he's the best man for the job in a conventional sense. That's subjective. But maybe there are deeper lessons for us to experience as a result of him being the president during this great shift. And yes, I will be very honest. I do think by 2030, we're likely to get disclosure. Simply because I don't think the government can continue to lie about that. Even something as simple as Havana syndrome, the tide is turning on that. There have been press releases about new people coming forward, trying to be transparent about that. And I'll probably do a whole video on that because UFO skeptics like Mick West and Michael Shermer were very aggressive in conveying that has nothing to do with weapons that adversaries are using, but now it looks very much like, in some cases, Havana syndrome actually is the result of weapons used by adversaries. Another interesting development that has happened recently is a podcast called The Telepathy Tapes. I'm not conversant on it right now, but the basic idea is that allegedly autistic children are demonstrating their capacity to read people's minds. Wouldn't that be interesting if within the next 4 years, telepathy gets proven? It gets proven that some UFOs stem from non-human intelligence, and maybe a little bit less impressive, but still very important, the lies about Havana syndrome get exposed. So I guess what I'm saying is we are in very tumultuous times. And if you believe that God is in control, then maybe everything is just as it's supposed to be. And I'm only bringing this up for contemplative purposes. I'm not claiming anything is true or untrue. I just think it's a fun contemplative exercise. But we'll leave it at that. I apologize for not posting recently. I've had very severe concentration issues, but the last 2 days I've slept much better and my concentration is much better. So I'm very grateful to God for that. May it continue. Please don't forget to subscribe. If you'd like to support this channel, you can check out my merch shop where I sell t-shirts. You can become a patron. You could become a YouTube member. You can give me a one-time donation. All those potentialities can be accessed in the description box below. Or you could slap a like on this bad boy, and I'll appreciate it so much. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in that next episode. Special thanks to all YouTube members, patrons, those that have bought merch, those that have given me a one-time donation. I couldn't do without you. Thank you so much. See you in the next episode.